AI is everywhere, including some places that you may not quite expect. Hey, my name's Blake Benz. I'm the host of the Good Advice Podcast, and you come to the right place to learn how to do business better. In fact, if you're listening to the podcast today, you might be listening on Spotify. It's where most of our listeners are. Or you may just use Spotify just for as you're driving around or working in the house or whatever you may be doing. But here's the thing about Spotify, is everything you hear on Spotify authentic? Or is Spotify feeding you AI-generated music without you realizing? We're talking today with Martin Gutierrez, who's on the podcast as the creative director of Sync, but it's not his role that brought him to the show. It is a LinkedIn post of some things that he discovered and us just diving into a conversation around this, including its impact on the music industry. I think you're going to enjoy this episode. Before we dive in, we have a word from one of the businesses that sponsors the podcast. Check out this quick ad and we'll be right back soon. Life is constantly moving quickly, and in fact, I find myself more and more wanting a pause button to capture some of those special memories with my family. That's why I love what the team at Duncan & Stone is doing. They've created high-quality keepsake journals for every stage of life. From people who are freshly engaged all the way to welcoming their first child, Duncan & Stone has a series of journals that are incredible for capturing some of those precious memories, and not just memories, with the stories and conversations that you want to have with your loved ones one day. Personally, I love the Dear Daughter Journal because it captures all of the amazing memories that I want to be able to tell my daughter Maylee one day. The team at Duncan & Stone understands the value of keeping these memories close to home. That's why they've spared no expense in creating high-quality journals that are designed in-house because they know how precious these memories are. Check out duncanandstone.com and see some of the journals that will walk you through every stage of life. They're easy to use and beautiful to display, and most importantly, they capture what matters. Again, go to duncanandstone.com to find out more. Martin, it's great to meet you today. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Blake. It's great to meet you too. Thanks for having me.
So this might be the most unique way that I've gotten someone on the podcast. For our listeners, Martin made a post on LinkedIn. That post then got circulated on Reddit. And then me, being the creepy guy I am, I looked up Martin, messaged him, and said, hey, I promise I'm not selling anything, which you got to say today on LinkedIn, right? Would you come on the podcast and talk about this conversation? And I appreciate you, Martin, for saying yes. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely the first time that something that I wrote got circulated on Reddit. And being a Reddit user myself, I was proud of that.
and you know what? To your credit, it was circulated in a positive way. Yes. In that, you never know when something you post gets on Reddit, you're just like, oh no, like, what have I done? What have I said? So, compliments to you. And we'll get into the conversation here in a little bit. But for our listeners, it was a post about AI in music. We've talked a lot on the podcast about AI in general. There's a variety of takes on it. But people who are long-term listeners, they know my soapbox about it. Before we get into any of that though, Martin, I'd love to know more about you, what you do. Tell us about So Stereo. What's the day in the life for you?
Of course. So my name is Martin Gutierrez. I go by Martin. I go by anything that anyone wants to call me like. I am from a place called Barranquilla in the northern Caribbean coast of Colombia. I am the creative director of So Stereo. I'll get a little bit more into what we do in a moment. I am, as cliche as it may sound, a music fanatic. I've been into music all my life, and I actually started getting into the music industry after 10 years of DJing, which I don't know is something good or bad during this time that everyone is becoming a DJ. But that was about, between 2010, 2018, something like that. And I met a couple of great people during that time. And Uh, and I made, I created a record label with two of my very good friends that also made part of a band. During that time, they signed with Sony Music, and we started also this record label just to help local musicians get their music out there. And we also started a music festival from scratch, which is called Timeless Festival, and it still happens back in my hometown. Right now, I'm currently residing at St. Petersburg, Florida. Um, but yeah, man, during that time, it was a lot of street work, you know. And by street work, I mean understanding what the music industry in my country and my hometown looked like, from negotiating, you know, from negotiating things of just time, like how much time we could use in the festival with the government, things with the police, things with artists, getting them, doing all the bookings, getting them to the hometown, hotels, transportation, all of that. I loved it. It was very stressing, but I still liked it a lot. And I was also working with my friends that make part of the band. So I was learning about music rights a lot. Learning, I was helping them with just to read contracts and stuff like that. We were all just doing things,
I
learning,
I love
learning
this
from the
though,
start.
man. Dude, I'm telling you, man, I love this kind of conversation because it feels like I love the story of the person who's like learning how to do business, who didn't go to like a business. Like I never went to a business school. And there's something like really special about like boots on the ground, like actually being in it. Like, I don't know if you can remember like the first contract you signed, but like I think back to me of like, man, am I gonna regret this? Am I like signing my life away? Like what's in this? But what was that process for you guys as you were kind of figuring out negotiating deals and how does business
Yeah.
work and
Yeah,
what
it
was it
was
like?
it was very exciting. It was very exciting because we were young. I'm still young, I would say that, but we were pretty young, and just learning the ropes, and then of course like working the music. It was my
Yeah.
passion, and I never wanted to really become like a musician and of sorts. I always wanted to be the one working behind the curtain.
Mm.
So the funny thing is that after all that work with them, I actually told myself, you know what, I really want to become a professional in the industry, and I managed to get a scholarship to go to Northeastern University in Boston, um, to do my master's in music industry leadership. So I was there from 2018 to 2019. And man, that experience, of course, was incredible for me. I worked in the radio station of the university, and like in the media side of things, going to concerts, writing reviews, and of course, just being on top of all of the things music that I needed to do during my studies. And my focus was on licensing and copyright. So after that, that's when I met the people that I work for now, the guys at So Stereo. They offered me a job after I finished my master's, as a music analyst. So I was just, you know, before I get into that, just to say that So Stereo is we offer music solutions to ad agencies, music supervisors, producers, and everyone who is making content out there. The catalog of music that we have is filled with independent artists and labels, and we also are partner with composers who create original music. And so music from those artists are featured in TV shows, trailers, films, social media, and video games. So that's kind of like the gist of what we do.
That's awesome. And
And
you're the
yes,
creative director now.
I am the creative director now after I've been with the company for 6 years. Again, I started leading like the music analyst team. So
Yeah.
music gets ingested in the platform from the A&R, from the A&R team. And then there are actual people who analyze the music and add the tags, so that the creative team, who are the people that do playlists for clients based on briefs, they are the ones who, do the search in the platform based on the tags. So for example, let's say that, one of our clients, Toyota, they're looking for, a brand new piece for their commercial for a new car. Uh, and they say we're looking for, you know, indie rock with female vocals and saxophone solo. I can actually look for those tags, precise tags in our system because we have a great tech team that created a beautiful system, really. And I can look for those songs. A bunch of those songs will come up, and I will add them to a playlist and send them to our clients, and they can, choose which song they like if there is a song that they like, and then it goes through the whole licensing process. So as a creative director, I'm the one who takes care of that part of the business while also making sure that we have a bunch of curated playlists in our platforms, making sure that that our artists and labels are being heard. So yeah, man, that's kind of like a fast, a fast, just description of how I got into what I do now.
Do you play music on the side?
I don't. I don't. I actually only play percussion for a bit and produce music as in Ableton Live and stuff like that. Yeah. But I never became a trained musician. This has always been a ear. An ear thing,
What is it? Just like natural, like it just clicked for you, or is there like something about music inherently that, like, you've been in the music industry for forever? So what is it about music that it draws to you so much?
Yeah, I think from like I mentioned from the start, I was really my parents, especially my father. He really we really connected through music and on two genres, rock, like classic rock, the Stones, etc., and also vallenato, which is like the blues of Colombia in a way.
Okay, cool.
It is a very interesting genre of music, but it's very big there, and we connected through it. Like I loved it, and then after that, I had two brothers. The older one was the one who got me into, kind of like South American rock and other classic rock bands. And my brother, the one in the middle, was the one who got me into electronic. So after all of that, I started getting all these influences and really noticing that music made part of who I was. I play music all the time, every day, all day. My wife is like, "Can we please just not have during our dinner?" And I'm like, "Oh man, come on, we got to set the mood."
Yeah.
So I think that influence and of course getting into music, understanding genres, understanding the history of music, it all started to click to me. And at the same time, while I was doing the whole label and music festival, I was also curating playlists for restaurants, fashion runways, and bars, So I was understanding that part of music, like what role does music play, in a space?
Yeah.
Like what effect does music have in someone who's sitting down enjoying a meal? What does that mean when you're having a drink? So that kind of gave me this creative flow and creative way of actually reading something, like a brief, which is how we call what client sends us, a brief of like, we're looking for this specific style of music that could work for this, and maybe this is the spot. So I have to something happens internally that my head is like, this could work this way. We could maybe go for this artist, maybe this influence. So yeah, man, I would say that that's a skill that I developed over time, and that's what I'm good at.
Let's bring it to the LinkedIn post.
Yes.
It's not to make it sound so infamous, the LinkedIn post. So I saw this post circulated again on Reddit, talking about and I don't want to speak for you, but your experience on Spotify, which I use Spotify all the time. Your experience with Spotify, and I wasn't sure if you were using like the radio feature or like they do like the custom playlist kind of thing, but for the sake of the story, what what led to this LinkedIn post? What was the experience that you had?
So every Friday I go to my release radar, like a lot of people do on Spotify, right? The release radar has has in the past has been a way of one of the ways that I discover music. I tend to discover music, of course, the old school way, going to record stores, on the radio, going to live gigs, right? But Spotify and the algorithm were like got it good for a bit. You know, they were recommending new music and also giving me the new releases of the artists that I like. But 2 weeks ago, I was, it's been like a bit off the past month or so, but 2 weeks ago specifically, I got into it and um I heard, I saw this artist. He was called Nick. It was called Nick. Yeah, I'll give you the name in a second. Nick Hustles. That's it. And I was like, that's a cool name. But as I started listening to the music, it felt strange. It felt like it was digital, like done digital, and by that I mean it just felt that it wasn't real in my ears. And then I was like, this is strange. And in my head, I'm like, please don't tell me that this is AI generated music. So I went and clicked on his profile, and his picture, like as the artist picture that he had was AI generated. Of course, I think everyone can see an AI generated picture and say, okay, that's AI, right? All the single covers were AI generated. So I was like, this is crazy. So I talked to someone in my company and I told him, man, look at what's happening. And he went into ChatGPT and it actually said, yes, Nick Castles is an AI generated artist from a certain company. And I got into the certain company and which is called Authentic Artist, by the way, which is pretty funny.
I'm gonna come back to that data point.
Yes.
I have a little bit of a tangent about that, but you go ahead though.
Yeah. So, and I saw that, yeah, effectively they create AI generated music. And I was mad. I was mad because I've been, this is my industry. I'm aware of what's happening with AI, and I am not against AI. I am pro AI if it's used in, ethically.
Mhm.
And that's a difficult and dangerous world, right? A dangerous word, sorry, right now, but I'm still gonna use it. Like, um, I think that AI should be used in a way to enhance our skills. Okay. But I don't think it should be used to replace
Yeah.
what people do. Um, and in music, I was never expecting Spotify to recommend AI generated music because this is not just them doing it like, oh, this is just algorithm. Like there has to be something happening that they are trying to push AI generated artists. So in my head, I was like, I'm going to be vocal about this because this is something that I thought that never was going to happen. So I wrote a post on LinkedIn. I am not at all like someone who has a lot of followers on LinkedIn, or I've never had a post like had that amount of traction. So after it happened, I was like, wow, this is crazy, but it's also great that there's a lot of people that feel the same way
Yeah.
I do. So that's when I wrote about like literally the story that I just told you.
Yeah.
I wrote it like that, and I then said like, "Hey, I feel that um, companies like Spotify or the so-called DSPs, digital service providers, we're talking about YouTube, Apple Music, all of them, they Deezer, etc. They should have AI policies. Um, they should flag AI generated music and they shouldn't throw it in the algorithm. Though that's my personal point, of course. And apparently a lot of people thought the same.
Yeah, it's interesting how and I love what you said earlier about, because it's hard to talk about this topic because I worry that sometimes people think that I'm just anti AI, and it's like you said, I'm not anti AI. I've had a lot of episodes on the podcast where I've given the disclaimer of like, hey, I have a ChatGPT membership. I'm not anti AI, but I'm concerned at the growing amount of um, initiatives replacing sort of like the substance of what something is in and replacing it with AI. And music's just one. I definitely don't have the ear, but I love music. I love music. And there is something, I don't know, I feel like, and I'm curious what the listeners think. It almost feels like there's something inherently wrong about music, which should be an expression of the human soul, which maybe that's dramatic. I don't know, it being like digitalized or commercialized in this form of, high scale, a series of inputs, and maybe Spotify's putting a lot more work into it than I'm giving them credit for. But yeah, it's a really interesting time. And it's weird to me too, like you said, that there's not any kind of flagging or tagging of like AI generated or anything like that.
Yeah. And, like, there's something I'd like to mention, that just like, it is so strange. Like after this happened, a lot of people shared, articles on the LinkedIn posts. And then I started seeing other news coming in about what's happening, like in January 2025. So Deezer, which is the French DSP, um, they actually, uh, put out a press release saying that they had been developing, an AI, like an AI detection tool. And that tool, of course, is made, according to them, to support human made music, right? And that they want to fully remove AI tracks from algorithmic recommendations. They filed 2 patents in December of 2024 to protect the tech. And the results during the first month, they said that the new tool detected that 10% of all tracks that are submitted daily are AI generated. We're talking about 10,000 songs, man.
Hmm.
10,000. And that must be the same for Spotify. So why? That's what I ask myself. Like, why 10,000 songs? Like, what is the background of all of this? And man, like, I don't want this podcast to sound like a conspiracy theory or anything, but uh as I was saying, like, a bunch of different things started coming to me as information about all of this that has been happening. So that is super good news that
Yeah.
Deezer actually did that, right? Like, at least we know that someone in the game
Yeah.
is actually thinking about this.
Yeah.
I saw Deezer. I saw, like, the CEO of Deezer and, one of the members of CSAC, which is like the performance rights organization from France, talking last year in South by Southwest, and it was very interesting to know, uh, about, they didn't talk precisely about this, but they talked about ghost artists, which is another subject. If and I want to ask you, if that's cool, we go into that for a
Yeah.
little bit.
What is that?
So it's a bit more of background of what's happening, because, so, you know, since we all work, we all do things around the house. We all, like, sometimes we just want to put background music. That could be lo-fi beats, which is a huge, like a huge subgenre that people love. It could be jazz, electronic, ambient, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I think the DSB started noticing that, those playlists of background jazz and whatever were getting a lot of listeners. So apparently what's been happening, and I'm gonna recommend, sorry, for all the listeners, if this is a subject that they're interested, I'm just gonna recommend, a couple of journalists that are, this is real stuff, not, it's not something that I'm just talking out of my head or that I took from Reddit.
No, yeah, sure.
So, you know, ghost artists are musicians, are real musicians that actually do most of the music that you hear on these playlists, and through different names. So it's like they, I'm just gonna do like a trio jazz, right? Or big band or whatever. These artists do like a bunch of music and they sell it. They sell the rights, right? So they sell all the rights and um to someone who now owns the song.
Mhm.
And now those songs that they actually sold that they don't own anymore, they're getting like a bunch of plays. I'm talking thousands and thousands of plays on Spotify. And of course, they're not getting the copyright, and they're not getting, so this is almost like noise music, right? And so what's the deal? Because the Spotify and Deezer and all of these companies came into the music industry as a way to recollect money for artists. Like I'm telling you that, in 2024, Spotify's revenue was around 16.5 billion USD. So that's a lot of money. And they, of course, they say like we've been giving a lot of money to our artists, but then this music is just like being used in the background, and it's taking away
Yeah.
from real people
Yeah.
doing, putting out albums, putting out all of this. So they're not getting these royalties. So it's producing a discrepancy in that part of the industry.
Well, and it's so hard to like know what to think because I've been hearing that Spotify hasn't been doing a great job of paying artists. But then you also see there was a news article that we talked about on the podcast about how Spotify would stay remote, and they got a lot of good, positive attention for apparently treating their employees really well. So there's this really weird, like middle gray area of like, I like that, but I also don't know how much of a corporation this is. And at the end of the day, I think what's challenging is, and I think what should give people pause is, I think companies are realizing the endless amounts of money they can make, because like copyright issues, that's a big pain point for any company like Spotify. Like maybe I'm misremembering. I feel like there was like 10 years ago that like Taylor Swift wasn't on Spotify because there was like an issue around royalties or copyright. I don't remember what it was. Which that may be incorrect. I might be misremembering, but all this to say, copyrights and paying artists is probably the thorn in the side for any large music distributor. So for them, I guess it's a no-brainer. Hey, if I could just cut this person out entirely, it makes a lot of sense. But I'm deeply concerned, to
Yes.
put it
Yes.
lightly, I guess. And there's a comedian I follow on YouTube who he did a video a few months ago where he was like, "Hey, can we like slow this down? Like this thing is like taking off at a blistering pace." And not just with music, but I've seen some of like the video AI stuff where it looks lifelike. I mean, it's getting to the point where now you can't even tell. There's like some small details, but if you're just casually watching, you can't even tell it's an AI video. Which I don't know, man. I'm so thrown for a loop. I'm just like, man, where are we heading with this? I really don't know.
I know. And this is the crazy thing about all of this is that we are living it. We are every day, like we're walking with it, but we're really not walking. Like this is
Yeah.
like I call it a no man's land. And I feel that some of these companies are already right there, and they have a hotel and they have a bank,
Yeah.
and we're just like coming into like,
Yeah.
what is this? So I think, but that's why I wanted to be vocal
Yeah.
for itself, really. And by being vocal, like that post, like has been shared so many times. And I'm like, this says something. And, there was an article in Forbes by Virginie Berger, and it was a very insightful piece of AI's impact on music in 2025. So she says something that stayed with me, and it's that the next 12 months are gonna be very critical. Like, will we embrace AI ethically and ensure human creativity thrives, or will a deregulated AI dominated landscape leave artists struggling? Like, that's actually a quote from her article, by the way. Like, they licensing and like licensing should be like, you know, like licensing and transparent AI training are important. Like, we need regulations, ethical practices.
Yeah.
Like, this needs to be fair play, like, because authenticity, as she mentions in her article, is at stake. And I feel that that's very important.
Yeah,
One more thing that I want to mention from her article that was like, that kind of stayed with me. It was a very like doomsday kind of article. Still, she says the fight for the soul of music has begun.
Wow.
And it's a battle that we cannot afford to lose.
I love that. Martin, I said I wanted to come back to this, but now I'm looking at the clock. We're out of time. I just all I want to say is, you mentioned it just a second ago again, but this word authentic, and I'm just noticing how much AI is using that word.
Oh,
and
really?
It's like I watched a video of an influencer who was talking about AI influencers, and all these brands are doing AI influencers on social media, and they have tens of thousands of followers, and all the pictures in the feed are AI. None of it's real. It's a fake person. But they're wearing like the Puma brand, because it's a social media AI account for Puma. Well, what this person was talking about was, they were like, hey, yeah, this is a way for this account to more authentically engage with people who, love soccer or football or what have you. And it just dawned on me the irony of this word being used, of like, how like, why are we calling this authentic when it's literally, at its root, it is a commercialized fake account to get you to buy from their. I mean, maybe I'm sounding doomsday, but I just keep seeing this word used of like, and you mentioned this company, Authentic AI. It's like, I'm kind of worried about, what is this word going to mean now? So anyway,
I don't know, man. That's that's why I started calling AI the Terminator, and I really hope that I don't get a Terminator coming into my door. Hey, the last thing that I wanted to say, Blake, if that's cool, is if anyone really like, if this really calls the attention to, and everyone is like a little bit anyone is interested in more on the subject of Spotify and how that all came to what's happening, there is a how to call it. There's a person, I forgot the expression right now. There's a person called Liz Pelly, a journalist. Sorry, there we go. There's a journalist from New York called Liz Pelly, and she just released a book called Mood Machine: The Rise of Spotify and the Cost of the Perfect Playlist. I swear that she didn't pay me to say this. I haven't read the book yet. I just bought it, but she is the one that actually did the research on everything. So, and this just got released like 5-10 days ago.
Okay, so I'll check it out.
I'm telling you, that's why I'm telling you that this is like we just have to ride the wave for a while, but we have to be vocal. Like, if we're not vocal, then what are we doing? Especially people that enjoy music so much, like myself.
Yeah, I love it. Martin, thanks so much for taking the time to come on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, man, I appreciate you, Blake. Thanks for having me again.
For people who want to connect with you, is LinkedIn the best pathway, or how would you like people to connect with you?
Yes, LinkedIn is the best. I think I also left my email over here, and on Spotify. I still use Spotify for now. You can find me as Martin Gutierrez and like darkness in little quotations. You can find all my playlists there. That's a great way if you're interested in what I listen to.
All right, thanks again, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Blake. Thank you.
Hey, for our listeners, if you're a first-time listener on the podcast, what the heck you waiting on? Click that subscribe or follow button so you can keep getting good advice wherever you are. Don't forget, you can always support the podcast on our Patreon, patreon.com/goodadvice. Or if you want to advertise on the show, you can always reach out, Blake at goodadvicecoaching.com. We love our supporters of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening today. That's today's good advice. We'll catch you later. See ya.